Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, let me tell you about the latest special from Mike Lindell at MyPillow. The standard MyPillow, normally $49.98 for a limited time only, just $14.88 with promo code Joey. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener specials, and see all the specials. There's a limited quantity of just 10 at this special price. That's $14.88 with promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Senator Bernie Sanders had quite a moment yesterday when he got up during a pre-taped ABC This Week interview that aired on Sunday and accused Jonathan Karl of asking a, quote, nonsense question about whether Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez should run for the Senate against Chuck Schumer, of course. We have those details. President Trump appeared to offer some political advice to former Vice President Kamala Harris if she decides to run for governor of California. What advice? I'll tell you a bit later in the show. The Colorado State Senate is set to set up debate on what could be the toughest gun restrictions in the nation as the Democrat-controlled House passed the bill this past week. One of the GOP members of the House was reprimanded because he had a Second Amendment sticker on his laptop while speaking from the well in the House chambers. We have that story for you. And U.S. Education Secretary Linda McMahon yesterday insisted there won't be cuts to programs involving special education and student loans, even if they end up administered by other agencies. Secretary McMahon laid out her plan to dismantle the Department of Education.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
If you need any more evidence that the Democrat Party is in full-blown identity crisis, I'll give you the spectacle of Bernie Sanders storming off of a television set because someone dared to ask him about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the possibility that she may run for the U.S. Senate. Here's what happened. ABC's Jonathan Karl doing what journalists should do, and that's ask questions, simple questions at this. He said, should AOC run for the Senate? And Bernie? Well, he loses it. He calls it a nonsense question, and he gets up and walks out of the interview like a toddler denied a juice box at snack time. Here's the exchange.
Would you like to see her joining the Senate?
Right now, we have, as I said, just a whole lot of people in the Congress. Okay, Jonathan, thanks.
Wait, I got one more. This is important.
No, I asked you.
Okay.
You want to do nonsense, do nonsense.
No.
I don't want to talk about inside the Beltway stuff. I got 32,000 people.
I was just asking you about AOC because she was out there with you.
No, fine, but I don't want to talk about this. What was the last question?
I don't want to talk about this. I'm not going to talk about this now. It's nonsensical. Well, this is what happens when the radical fringe of your party starts turning on itself. You see, Bernie Sanders and AOC are supposed to be ideological soulmates, remember? Comrades in the great socialist revolution. But now with AOC reportedly eyeing a primary challenge to Chuck Schumer, things are getting a bit dicey in Democrat land. AOC isn't interested in governing. We know that. She's interested in power. And if that means taking out Chuck Schumer, the guy who's been in the Senate longer than many of her TikTok followers have been alive, then so be it. She doesn't care. She has no loyalty. She smells blood in the water. And guess what? She's got the crowd. Bernie himself bragged about 32,000 people showing up in Denver for their little socialism revival. That's not nothing. I mean, that's energy of the Marxist wing of the Democrat Party flexing its muscle. Now, let's talk about why Bernie got so mad. It's not because the question was nonsense. It's because he knows it's absolutely not nonsense. He knows it's very serious. He knows that AOC could actually beat Chuck Schumer in the primary. That's the embarrassing truth. Bernie doesn't want to talk about it because this shows just how fractured and just how unhinged the Democrat base has become. And it's even a little bit too far out there for Bernie to accept. You got one half of the party wanting to defund the police, nationalize industries, and abolish borders. and the other half trying to keep Wall Street and Silicon Valley donors from fleeing to Miami. And let's not forget, Bernie himself, 83 years old. He's admitting he's tired. Well, I hate to break it to him, but the woke mob doesn't care, Bernie. They'll happily push you out of the way if you get in the path of their social justice bulldozer. That's just how these revolutions work. And folks, it looks like they're starting to get ready to eat their own. Now, over on CNN, you had Representative Ro Khanna fanning the flames, saying that AOC has so many options and that there's real anger and a lot of support if she runs. Of course there is. The entire progressive base is foaming at the mouth to kick out anyone over the age of 40 who doesn't think America is a fundamentally evil place in need of a complete Marxist makeover. Of course they want her to run. It's scary that she does have that much support. And Chuck Schumer needs to take her serious. I mean, this is one time, and I hate to say this, is one time that you almost feel a little sorry for Chuck Schumer. But let me tell you, I'd rather have Chuck Schumer in the U.S. Senate than AOC. AOC needs to go back to the bar and start mixing drinks again. This is a civil war within the Democrat Party, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. It's the woke socialist insurgents versus the establishment liberals. And make no mistake, the radicals are on the rise. Bernie knows it. Schumer knows it. Biden, what little influence he has left in the party, knows it as well. And AOC, she's not waiting for permission. She's not asking for permission. She's building her brand, building her base, and preparing to blow up the party from inside. And does not care about any of the traditional Democrats or the traditional Democrat hierarchy. So what does this mean for you and me? Well, nothing really. It means that we keep watching, keep popcorn popping, keep calling it out, keep reminding America that this is what the modern Democrat Party looks like. A party at war with itself, a party too afraid to say boys are boys and girls are girls, a party that's burning down its own house in pursuit of utopia, and that is how we continue to win. That is how we just sit on the sideline and let them do it. Speaking of future Democrat primaries, this is the kind of political theater that is rich, layered, probably should come with a fork and a knife. Are you ready? You got this? President Trump appears to have offered career advice to Kamala Harris. Did you hear about this? The former vice president, the failed presidential candidate, the border czar who couldn't find the border with GPS and Google Maps, Kamala Harris, she's apparently, of course, toying with the idea of a run for governor of California because she needs a job. She can't stand the idea of sitting on the sidelines. Now, President Trump told Clay Travis in an interview aboard Air Force One that if Kamala wants to make a serious go at being governor of California, she's got to do something she's never felt comfortable doing. And that's talk to people. Not just a DNC echo chamber, not staged events with scripted applause, real interviews and real questions. Something that terrifies her. Trump said she's got to start doing interviews. And he's right. She ran a presidential campaign where she was virtually invisible. Then she went 39 straight days. Remember that? We had a countdown. 39 straight days without a single interview after Joe Biden bailed and handed her the baton. Joe calls it quit, endorses Kamala, and then she vanishes like Hunter Biden's laptop. Kamala reportedly passed on an interview with Joe Rogan, probably the biggest podcast on the planet, other than mine, Just the Truth. If you haven't subscribed, search for Joey Hudson, Just the Truth on the Odyssey app or wherever you listen to podcasts, because her team wanted to control the questions, because they knew if she was asked something, a tough question, a real question, she'd serve up a word salad, which is what she's so good at doing. Now, you had Trump doing the Rogan podcast. He took the tough questions, the no filters, the no handlers, the no teleprompter. He loves it. But I think it's so funny and ironic that Trump is offering advice to Kamala Harris on what she's going to have to do to potentially win the governor's mansion in California. Hi, Joey Hudson here. You know, this spring there's a renewed energy and focus on efficiencies, and shaking up unhealthy habits don't serve us well. There's so much chatter about making America great again, but it starts in your home with you being the best, healthiest version of yourself. And PhD Weight Loss is doing their part because for the first time ever, the first 11 callers get 2 free weeks added to your weight loss program. That is huge. PhD's out to prove that you don't need Big Pharma to reach your goals. It just creates dependency, not long-term change. Dr. Ashley Lucas researched weight loss trends for years and discovered a scientifically proven way to retrain your body to burn fat efficiently without hunger, extreme exercise, or dangerous medications. PhD clients watch their belly fat disappear, their energy skyrocket, cholesterol and blood pressure normalize without starving themselves. I lost over 30 pounds and I've never felt better. So call now and mention promo code Joey for my 2 weeks for free with my program. Call 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900 or go to myphdweightloss.com. There's a bit of disturbing news out of Colorado this past week. A Republican lawmaker expressed shock at being told by his Democrat colleagues who control the House that he had to remove a sticker supporting the Second Amendment from his laptop while in the state's House chamber. Now, this came all about when Colorado Republican State Representative Ken DeGraff was speaking against the bill that will make owning an AR-15 probably unlawful in Colorado, among other very strict gun control measures. So as he got up at the well, and the well is the podium where legislators speak when they're debating legislation. It's at the front of the room, in front of where the speaker is. That's considered the well. And he was told he had his laptop on the podium, and when he opened it up, it had a Second Amendment sticker so that everybody in the House chamber could see it. And he was told by the speaker, I suppose, by House leadership, that he couldn't have that sticker on his laptop. Here's his response.
In case anybody's wondering, the reason that because I had to cover up this and then they couldn't stand my sticker and I actually had it said shall not be infringed and signed 2A, and that was considered offensive, which I understand would be offensive to this bill. But Mr.
DeGraff, there is just a rule that we don't have that type of things in the well.
So, okay. No displays of the Constitution in the well. Got
it. And that voice that you heard was the speaker standing behind him, and that was a quick response. You know, so nothing about the Constitution in the well. Okay, I got that, Mr. Speaker. Got it. Now, again, the remarks come as Colorado lawmakers are debating this gun control bill that would limit the sale of semi-automatic firearms that rely on detachable magazines like the popular AR-15 platform. The legislation, it's Colorado Senate Bill 25003, would be one of the strictest gun control measures in the United States, something that the state Democrat lawmakers argue is necessary to keep citizens safe. The Representative Meg Frolick, a Democrat sponsor of the bill, told local KKTV in Colorado, preventing gun violence is one of the most effective ways that we can make our communities safer and save lives. Semi-automatic weapons and high-capacity magazines are uniquely lethal and dangerous, she said. This bill is a common-sense solution to ensure that people receive effective training and meet the requirements under state and federal firearm laws before purchasing the most lethal weapons on the market. From background checks and waiting periods to limits on high-capacity magazines, Colorado Democrats have enacted multiple laws to protect Coloradans from future gun violence. The bill has passed one side of the legislative chamber. It has additional readings. We're told that they will go back into session today and continue the debate. Now, of course, it's faced stiff resistance from Republicans like Representative DeGraff, who argued that the legislation would run afoul of the U.S. Constitution, which it probably will. Representative DeGraff accused his Democrat colleagues of being offended by the Constitution during his remarks. He pointed to the removal of the of the sticker as one example of how they don't want to talk about the Constitution. And as you heard near the end, as Representative DeGraff complained about the covering of the sticker, he was informed that the only reason for the request was because such displays are banned in the well. I mean, this is the type of restrictions of things that just violate our Constitution that the Democrats try to do in the name of safety. They try to convince people that, well, if we ban these AR-15s, shootings will go away. There won't be any mass shootings if we ban AR-15s in Colorado. Now, there have been instances where states have tried to make it almost impossible to purchase an AR-15. They've made it real strict not to have guns, but yet you still have gun violence. Because this gets back to the old argument that you and I have had many, many times, that as long as you have people, unfortunately, you're going to have violence because there are sick people out there. There are people out there who sit around and try to think of ways to harm someone, to kill their family members, to kill people who work with them. Some of these young students who want to kill their classmates. So writing a law, putting a law on the books that will violate our constitutional rights, your constitutional rights, my constitutional rights to bear arms is not going to change that. They're going to find a way. They always do. They always will. If you have someone who is so miserable and so demented that they want to take someone else's life or a whole group of people's lives, just like the person a couple of years ago in New York City who took out a city block with a Home Depot truck. He was able to kill people with a truck, just like the most recent one down in Louisiana, in New Orleans. The person who killed people with a vehicle. They're in New York City. The thing now is set people on fire. So what's New York going to do? They're going to ban lighters, going to ban lighter fluid, going to ban gasoline so you can't pour it on. Well, they probably would like to ban gasoline so everybody have to buy an electric vehicle. My point is, if somebody is so sick and so miserable with their own life that they want to take the life of someone else, unfortunately, and I'm sorry to say this, but you're probably not going to be able to stop them. With I don't care what type of legislation you pass, what laws you put on the book, you're not going to be able to stop them. And you restrict access to guns, then you now make my life and my family less safe because I can't have a gun to protect. And Colorado, of all places, I mean, I know that Colorado is more liberal, but I can't imagine that the people of Colorado is going to sit back and let their legislature pass a law that's going to make it harder for them to protect themselves and to protect their own families. But hey, maybe they will. Seems like their Democrat legislature seems to be smarter than everybody else in the state. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Firmin Ford text line, you know, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Firmin Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Firmin Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Firmin, Matthew Firmin. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Firmin Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Firmin Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Firmin Ford online at firminford.com, firminford.com. U.S. Education Secretary Linda McMahon yesterday insisted there won't be cuts to programs involving special education and student loans, even if they end up administered by another agency. Laying out her game plan to unwind her agency as much as possible, McMahon explained that the Trump administration has at least a general idea about which offices under the Department of Education can be moved to another agency. Here's her exchange on CNN State of the Union.
I think the president was very clear. The outward-facing programs that are going to be affecting students there's not going to be any defunding for those programs. When he talked about student loans, that would be going to the Small Business Administration, and also then the programs for students with disabilities will more than likely rest in HHS, which, by the way, is where they began. I think we're looking at putting things in different departments where they can operate very efficiently as we look at how we can shut down the Department of Education.
Do they not operate efficiently now?
Not as well as they should be. As a matter of fact, the president campaigned on the fact that he wanted to close down the Department of Education. And what we saw with our scores recently with the NAEP, which is our country's report card, I mean, it's unacceptable where education is in our country today. And so the Department of Education does not educate one child. It does not establish any curriculum in any states. It doesn't hire teachers. It doesn't establish programs. Mm-hmm. What it is more of a pass-through of funding, which is appropriated by Congress, by the way. And so we want to make sure that that funding continues in the departments where it needs to be, but at the same time, give states the opportunities to be innovative and creative with their teaching.
As you know, President Trump, a week or so ago, signed the executive order directing McMahon to begin the closure of the Department of Education. Quote, maximum extent appropriate and permitted by law, he said. He later said that he specifically wanted to shift the Department of Education's work on student loans and special needs kids to other departments. Now, the special needs kid issue, that has been used by the Democrat, the left, and those who just shudder at the thought of closing down the Department of Education. That's what they've been pushing. Oh, if this happened, if Trump does this, special needs children are not going to be able to get an education anymore. Their schools are going to be closed. She made a point that the Department of Education doesn't teach a single student or develop curriculum. So you've got this agency with this huge budget, money that could be sent down to states and local school districts to actually spend in the classroom, but it's being spent on the salaries of bureaucrats. The Education Secretary acknowledged that the Trump administration will need an act of Congress to fully eliminate the Department of Education. She's already taken drastic steps, though, she said, to begin dismantling, including by slashing nearly half of its workforce earlier in March. The Department of Education was created in 1979 under the late former President Jimmy Carter. The department has the lowest staffing levels and one of the largest budgets of any department in the presidential cabinet. Now, let that sink in for a minute. Has the lowest staffing levels and one of the largest budgets of any department. Starting with former President Ronald Reagan, the GOP has long pushed to abolish the Department of Education. So far, we have been unsuccessful. I think we are as close as we'll ever be to getting this accomplished now. Former President Barack Obama signed legislation in 2015 restricting the Department of Education from wading too heavily into local education issues. Still, Secretary McMahon contended that the DOE, which had a $268 billion budget last year, is too cumbersome with states in how it doles out money. In some areas, like the support for children with disabilities, Secretary McMahon said that she wants to see even more funding go to the states for that, and contended that the administration of those programs should largely be done at the state level, even if the Department of Education is closed down and hands this over to the Department of Health and Human Services, where it probably should be. She said certainly President Trump has said that he will move things in accordance with the law and in cooperation with Congress. Well, look, she starts dismantling it, and she gets it down to the bare bones. I think we can get Congress to just totally eliminate it altogether. During the interview, McMahon also briefly touched on Columbia University's decision to cave to the Trump administration's demands that it revamp its approach to combating anti-Semitism on campus. You remember we talked about that last week. They saw $400 million of federal funds frozen until they got in line. McMahon said that Columbia University's concessions mean that, quote, we're on the right track now to make sure that the final negotiations to unfreeze that money will be in place. She said the interim Columbia president, Katrina Armstrong, wants to make sure that there's no discrimination of any kind. She said she wanted to address any systemic issues that were identified relative to the anti-Semitism on the campus. Look, you flash $400 billion in front of them, and you let them know that you're serious about cutting it out, they'll change a lot of things because they're greedy. They want that money. In other Trump administration news, border czar Tom Homan clashed with this week guest host Jonathan Karl over the administration's efforts to deport the Venezuelan gang member Trende Arga. As you recall, last week we covered the story of United District Judge James Boasberg of the District of Columbia, that he had issued this injunction ordering the Trump administration to turn around two planes carrying members of the Venezuelan gang. Of course, the Trump administration did not turn the planes around because they were already in international airspace. So Carl is interviewing Mr. Holman, and he starts talking about, well, where are these gang members' due process rights? When he says due process, you can tell Tom Holman is on point. He's ready for this.
Do they get a chance to prove that before you take them out of the country and put them into a notorious prison in a country that they're not even from? I mean, do they have any due process at all?
Confident. Look, due process. Where was Lake and Ronnie's due process? Where were all these young women that were killed and raped by members of TDA? Where was their due process?
Well, the people that did that should be prosecuted.
That burned alive on a subway. Where's her due process?
Well, sure.
The bottom line is that plane was full of people designated as terrorists. Number one. Number two, every Venezuelan migrant on that flight was a TDA member based on numerous criminal investigations, on intelligence reports, and a lot of work by ICE officers. Matter of fact, 2 days after that flight took off, I even had a discussion with the acting director of ICE, and he reiterated that every Venezuelan on that plane was a known member of the TDA. So a lot of officers, a lot of criminal investigators, special agents who've done this for decades, looked at the intelligence information, the criminal investigation information, all the various social media and surveillance and government records and public records, and they are confident that they're all members of the TDA. And I'm not surprised that a member of the family saying they're not a member of the TDA. But they were given due process according to the laws on the books. See, that's the difference between the Trump administration and Biden administration. We're actually using the laws on the books to enforce immigration law and secure the border at the highest level it's ever been. The Biden administration not only ignored the law, they violated the law, like District Court and District 5 said that not only are they violating law, they're actually ignoring the law altogether. We are using the laws on the books to enforce our borders, immigration laws, and the interior enforcement enforcement. If you look at the border numbers are down 96%. We already got 40,000 criminals removed by ICE in the interior, which more was done in 6 weeks than the Biden administration did in a year. We're using the laws on the books. We're not making this up. Everything we've done is based on a statute that was enacted by Congress and signed by the president. The president quickly, by proclamation, invoked the authorities he has under the Alien Enemies Act, which he's allowed to do.
And Mr. Holman's right, isn't he? When Jonathan Karl is talking about due process, Laken Riley had no due process. A lot of these other victims of these thugs have no due process. And let's not forget, they were in our country illegally to begin with. Not to mention the other violent criminal acts that they've committed. And so Jonathan Karl wants to talk about due process. Did we give them a chance to prove whether or not they were part of a gang or not? That shouldn't even be a part of the equation. The fact is, they were here illegally. That's enough to send them back. That's enough to deport them. Look, President Trump made it very clear when he issued many executive orders that dealt with the border security. He did this his first afternoon in office. And part of that was designating Mexican drug cartels like the TDA, like MS-13, as foreign terrorist organizations. These are bad people. These are people who want to kill us. Yes, put them on the first plane out. They have no right to be here. They came to our country illegally. Send them back home. Of course, in this case, they should be locked up, and we should be very thankful for El Salvador to accept these bad people and to put them in one of their prisons. Let them rot in jail for what they have done. It was another bad weekend as far as wildfires. We're seeing this all around the Southeast pretty much, but particularly again in North and South Carolina, as we saw emergency declarations and forced evacuations in several parts of the Carolinas. In North Carolina, the Department of Public Safety issued a mandatory evacuation Saturday for parts of Polk County, which is about 80 miles west of Charlotte. And then on Friday, they warned that visibility in the area would be reduced and road evacuation routes can become blocked. So they said, if you do not leave now, you could be trapped, injured, or killed. The North Carolina Forest Service's wildfire map showed that 3 active fires in Polk County, 2 of which had encompassed over 1,000 acres. It's just crazy that we're continuing to deal with these fires. The region's still recovering from Hurricane Helene, of course, which struck in September, caused widespread damage, impacting more than 5,000 miles of state-maintained roads and damaging an additional 7,000 private roads, bridges, and culverts. And now we have the wildfires burning the forest areas. Now, in upstate South Carolina, Pickens County particularly, Governor Henry McMaster declared a state of emergency Saturday in response to a growing wildfire there. It's suspected that this started out as a campfire, spread very quickly. When I first learned of it on Saturday, it was a small fire of about 10 acres. But because of the conditions and because it got very windy Saturday, you may recall, it quickly spread to 100 acres and then plus some. Governor McMaster in his statement said, as this wildfire continues to spread, this state of emergency allows us to mobilize resources quickly and ensure our firefighters have the support they need to protect lives and property. The declaration followed a statewide outdoor burning ban issued by the South Carolina Forestry Commission as well. Local authorities issued voluntary evacuation calls for residents near South Carolina's Table Rock Mountain. Pickens County Sheriff Tommy Blankenship said in a Facebook video that the fire was started by a negligent act involving a group of teenage hikers. Fire crews suspended operations late Saturday night, and they resumed them yesterday. They had helicopters, air tankers, pulling water out of Jocassee and trying to extinguish the fire. South Carolina Forestry Commission spokesperson Brad Bramlett said it's very steep terrain. There's a lot of what we call down timber, blown debris that has fallen because of Hurricane Helene, which has just really added fuel to the fire. So please, if you're in the Carolinas, if you're in the Southeast, don't burn things outdoors. And if you're camping, don't have a fire outside. It's just too dangerous right now. Over the weekend, President Trump stopped security clearances for a slew of top Democrats. Did you hear about this? When I saw the headline, I first thought, this is a spoof. This is like Babylon B or something. But no, it was true. President Trump stopped security clearances for Joe Biden, former Vice President Kamala Harris, and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. He released a memo saying that he was revoking the clearances for at least 15 people who have acted against him or heavily criticized him, underscoring that it's, quote, no longer in the national interest for them to have security accessibility. The list included Biden-era officials whose clearances were stripped, including Biden and his entire family, Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton, former Secretary of State Antony Blinken, former Biden National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, former Wyoming GOP Representative Liz Cheney, former Illinois Republican Adam Kinzinger, New York District Attorney Alvin Bragg, and New York Attorney General Letitia James, the latter two of whom prosecuted criminal cases, of course, against Trump. Now, look, why do they even need security clearances? Why does Liz Cheney need a security clearance? Why does former Representative Adam Kinzinger need a security clearance? Why does District Attorney Alvin Bragg ever need a security clearance? You understand how these former members of Congress may have once needed security clearance, but why would Alvin Bragg and New York Attorney General Letitia James why should they have ever had a security clearance? Others on the list included Justice Department official Lisa Monaco, attorneys Mark Zaid and Norm Eisen, Fiona Hill, and Alexander Vindman, the latter two of whom testified against Trump in his first impeachment trial. These are former Biden-era Justice Department officials. In addition to having their security clearances revoked, those listed in Trump's memorandum had their unescorted access to secure United States government facilities rescinded. He has revoked their security clearances and banned them from U.S. government facilities. He has kicked them out. Trump has kicked them out once and for all. Several people who were named pushed back on social media. Mr. Eisen said on X, it was like the third time he's announced he's revoking my security clearance. He added, who does he think I am, a big law firm or a billionaire who's going to back down? It just makes me file even more lawsuits. So I guess this guy's been suing Trump. Mr. Kinzinger said in a video posted on X that he retired from the military a year ago and said, I don't even have a security clearance. I'm sorry I'm living rent-free in your head, Donald, but you got this wrong. Mr. Zaid also noted that it was the third time Trump had revoked his security clearance. The move blocks these people mentioned in this directive from accessing classified documents and entering government buildings that deal with national security issues. President Trump announced last month that he was intending to revoke Biden's security clearance. And look, former presidents typically continue to receive security information, national security information. They continue to be briefed pretty much for life. But do you think Joe Biden even understands what these briefings are anymore? There's no reason for Joe Biden to have these. You agree? Now, there is some precedent for revoking Biden's security clearance. After Trump left office in 2021, Biden banned him from receiving intelligence briefings, saying that his predecessor was a security risk because of his erratic behavior leading up to the January 6th attack on U.S. Capitol. So Joe Biden can't complain. He started this. He set the precedent when he revoked Trump's security clearance. And again, once these guys leave office, is there any reason for them to have clearance? Is there any reason, even when Donald Trump leaves in just over not quite 4 years now, regardless of your party, your status, does a former president need to have a security clearance? According to the currently former President Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama continue to receive daily intelligence briefings. Now, I got to believe that cost us some money. I mean, that means that somebody with these agencies, and I would assume they do this in person. I don't know. Maybe they have some kind of secure line. But I'm just not sure that Bill Clinton, George Bush, and Barack Obama should receive daily intelligence briefings. What does that help? Why? Why do they need that? You agree? You agree that these former presidents, that this is a waste of time and a waste of our resources? That they're getting security information that there's nothing they can do with it? Wow. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Firmin Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.